the world news has been dominated by one item. All of you know what it is, right? The invasion of Ukraine by Russia. There is a war going on there, and all the countries of the world are seized up with this. Many of them against Russia, supporting Ukraine, some of them supporting Russia, and the whole world is practically divided along this line right now. Actually, if we look at how all this started, it started with Ukraine wanting to become a member of the NATO group. The NATO is an alliance of the European countries and the United States of America and those countries who are considered enemies by Russia. In reaction to Ukraine's attempt to gain membership of NATO, Russia decided to attack Ukraine, ostensibly to protect its own security, to take care of its welfare. Now, in reaction to Russia's invading Ukraine, immediately the US and the NATO and the rest of the other countries, they took various actions. Companies who are operating in Russia, they shut down their operations. Sanctions were levied. Trade was shut down. The banks stopped the trading with Russia. All these kind of things happened. In reaction to that, Russia also did certain things. Russia said, we will no longer supply rocket engines to the United States. Russia said, we will seize all the properties, the assets of the foreign companies who are refusing to work here, etc., etc. In reaction to that, the US took up the whole matter in the UNSC, and there, you know, a vote was passed condemning Russia, but then that was vetoed by Russia, and China and India and UAE, they did not, they abstained, and all these kind of things happened. You can see the chain of reactions happening. One action by Ukraine, it led to a reaction by Russia. Russia's action led to a reaction by NATO, and their reaction led to another reaction by Russia. Actually, this is the nature of this material world. Any action that you take, any activity that you undertake, there will be some reaction, either good or bad. In the case of Ukraine, they wanted to take up the membership of NATO. The reaction was Ashubha. They got invaded. And Russia's action, positive action of taking care of its security, reaction again became Ashubha. It was Shubha for Russia to invade Ukraine, but then the reaction became Ashubha. In this world, any activity that we do, it is always met with a reaction, either a good reaction or a bad reaction. This is not only true of a global scale of activity, but at activity even at the national level, at the state level, at the district level, at the level of the community, at the level of our family, at our individual level. Every level, every activity that we do, it creates a reaction, either a good reaction or a bad reaction. Now, in this today's verse, what is Krishna saying? Shubha Ashubha Phalair. This material world, all activities result in either a Shubha or an Ashubha Phala. Result which is good or bad. Nobody is free from this, actually, if you see. Although sometimes we fear taking certain action because we know that the risk is very high. When we say we should not engage in risky activities, what is the meaning of that? Risky activity means the probability of the reaction to our activity being a bad reaction, Ashubha reaction, is very high. So we say it is a risky affair. We should not engage in risky activities. Sometimes we take risk and go ahead, and we get good result also sometimes. And then people will all praise, oh, this man, you see, he took a risky decision and it clicked, and look at the amount of money he made. This material world is, everybody understands, that any activity that I undertake will either result in a good reaction or a bad reaction. And we decide upon acting based on what is our estimation of the reaction going to be. If the reaction is Shubha, if it is good, if it is beneficial, then we feel confident in going ahead with that activity. If the activity is going to give some non-beneficial, some harmful, some dangerous reaction, we will be averse to taking that step. We measure whether I should do some activity or not simply based on whether I'm going to get a good result or not. That is how we are currently conditioned by the modern society to think and act. The whole decision-making process has been ingrained into us, that the only way you can decide whether to act or not is based upon the result. And consequence of this, what are we seeing? In this material world, there is so much strife, there is so much violence, there is so much conflict going on, there is so much corruption, all these things. Why? Because everybody thinks what is good for me, I should do. Now, when I act in a way which is beneficial for me, it is harmful for somebody or the other. If I earn 100 rupees, that 100 rupees is not falling from the sky. Somebody has to spend his 100 rupees and you get your 100 rupees. That means one man's food is another man's poison. You are earning money, you are making profit is at the cost of somebody else. Therefore, the example given is all of us are drawing circles around ourselves. We are drawing a circle around myself, that within this circle, these are my areas of interest, all this should be taken care. Another person standing next to me, he draws another circle. Now that circle that he is drawing will somewhere come and intersect with my circle. Then conflict arises, because that's a common ground. He wants that benefit, I also want. Now who is going to get it? That becomes the conflict. Now if it is only two people, one area of conflict, okay, somewhere you can adjust and live with it. Now there are millions of people, millions of circles, all of them intersecting everywhere, helter-skelter. What will happen? That is why we see in Kali Yuga, people are constantly in conflict. Everybody is fighting with somebody or the other. Hence, Kali Yuga is called the age of quarrel, age of conflict. The government takes a decision in Kerala. For the welfare of the people, we want to put a silver line. And immediately there is a group who will stand up and protest. No, this is not beneficial because of 1, 2, 3, 4 reason. Then somebody else will stand up and oppose them. No, it is beneficial for me for this reason. You see how it is. If we base this society and the world, the decision making in this world is simply based on what is beneficial for me, the world can never be peaceful and harmonious. Then what is the alternative? Do you mean to say that I should never think of my welfare? Then what will happen? Then if I don't think of my welfare and if I sit quietly, everybody will come and pounce upon me and tear me apart and finish me off. Then what is the point? Krishna is giving an alternative. Shubha Shubha Phalair Evam Mokshase Karma Bandhanaihi Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mam Upaishyasi. Krishna is saying, we have to become freed from all reactions to good and evil deeds. How is this possible? Is it possible? Because Krishna earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, he said that not even a moment, na jatu tishtatya karma krit, not even a moment we can sit idle. By nature, we are living entities. We want activity. We have to do something or the other. So if we are not doing something which is beneficial for me, then what am I supposed to be doing? That Krishna is saying, Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma. One has to be Yukta. One has to follow the process of Yukta Vairagya. One cannot be impractical Vairagya. Falgu Vairagya we cannot practice. That I'm doing something beneficial for me. It is creating trouble and conflict. Let me stop acting totally for my benefit. That will not help. That is called Falgu Vairagya, or it is impractical renunciation. It is false renunciation. On the other hand, what do the Acharyas state? They they say we have to engage in Yukta Vairagya. What is the meaning of Yukta Vairagya? Yukta Vairagya means whatever activity we do, we base our decision making for an activity based on the pleasure of Krishna and the Guru, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has given so many instructions. So, one of the things that Prabhupada has said is that one must follow the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, including even onion and garlic, we must give up. No intoxication, including up to the point of even cigarettes, smoking, tobacco, even coffee and tea one has to give up. No gambling, meaning no engagement in any sort of lying activity or any kind of cheating or any kind of speculative trading. All these things we must give up. And no illicit sex. No relationship between man and woman outside of marriage. So these 4 principles we have to follow. Now when we are going in the street, we see some nice shop. And in the shop there is a display of nice foodstuffs. And they are selling hot onion pakoda. Your mouth starts watering. And if you go by the decision of what is good for you, that onion pakoda is very tasty. You will go spend your money, buy and eat. But then you think, no, Prabhupada has said, I should not engage in, this is a regulative principle, I should not eat onion and garlic. So I will not eat. When we base our activity and our decision making on the pleasure of Krishna and Guru, on the instructions of Krishna and Guru, then what happens is we become free from the reactions. Both evil and good reactions, we become free. We are not subject to any reaction for our activity. But then every activity will result in something or the other. No. It has to result in something. It cannot be void. It cannot be empty. Any activity that I do has to be something. If I cook nice aloo pakoda at home, offer it to Krishna and then eat, my stomach will get filled. No. You cannot say that because I'm eating, I'm following Prabhupada's instructions and I'm eating only Krishna Prasadam. So my stomach will not get full because no reaction. Reaction will still be there. The point is that it will not result in good or bad results. It will not result in papa karma or punya karma. On the other hand, if I am following the 4 regulative principles which Prabhupada has given, I am only honoring Krishna Prasadam and I lead a life which is sin-free, then what happens is, in response to that, those kind of activities which I am carrying out in consonance with the instructions given by the Guru, Srila Prabhupada and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the resultant whatever the benefit we are getting will be that we will be chalking our plan, our path back to Godhead. We will be determining a future for us, which is free from the miseries of this material world, consisting of old age, disease, birth, death, etc. If one wants complete freedom from the miseries of this material world, one wants to become free from repeated birth and death, one wants to permanently solve the problem of disease and old age, then the only way is Yukta Vairagya. Engage in activity which is pleasing to Krishna and Guru. By doing that, what happens is, we are no more getting bound to this material world to enjoy or suffer the results of Papa and Punya. On the other hand, we are getting moksha, we are getting liberated by going back to Godhead. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. We are booking a ticket for ourselves. We are getting a confirmed ticket on the flight back to Vaikuntha. This is what we are doing when we employ our decision-making process solely on the basis of whether this is pleasing to Krishna and Prabhupada or not. Actually, Arjuna understood this. Arjuna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, what was his thinking? I will not engage in this battle of Kurukshetra because I have to kill my own relatives, which will be it will be greatly distressful for me. If all these relatives of mine die, who will be distressed? I only will be distressed. So why should I engage in this? His initial decision was based on the fact that he felt the outcome of this war is not going to be beneficial for me. He was also thinking like us. like exactly the way we think. After Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna said, Karishye vachanam tava. I'll follow your instructions. I have understood that you want this battle to take place because you have a higher purpose of wanting dharma to be established. And therefore, although externally the result is not pleasing to me, I will still engage in this. And therefore, Arjuna is glorified until today, even 5,000 years later, after the Kurukshetra war, even today, everybody, at least in India, know who is Arjuna. What is he famous for? He heard the Bhagavad Gita and followed the instructions of Krishna. So all of you, all of us can also become famous like Arjuna. For the next 5,000 years, people will talk about us, provided we also decide to base our life's decision making on the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada's instructions, not based on the conditioning, the indoctrination that we have received from society. That decision making has to be based simply on what is beneficial for us externally. Therefore, we should all dwell upon this very important principle which Krishna is establishing in the Bhagavad Gita, and simply by following this very fundamental principle that anything I will do whether if it is pleasing to Krishna and Prabhupada, I will do. Otherwise, I will not do. This simple fundamental change in your decision-making process will create a revolution in your life, and you will see how your life becomes so blissful and it becomes completely different. You will experience a kind of life you would never have experienced before. So this is what the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is beckoning all of us to. So request everyone to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, read the Bhagavad Gita, and follow the instructions of Prabhupada and Krishna, and make your life blissful and all auspicious. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.